It is so important to understand the difference between what your medical doctor should provide for you and what your naturopath can provide for you, and how they can work together to give you the best possible outcome. So I want to illustrate that for you. Up here, we have the medical model of health. This is the way your medical doctor looks at it. If nothing is wrong, then the assumption is that you're okay. If something goes wrong, then the doctor's going to look at your symptoms, run whatever tests are necessary, all for the purpose of giving you a diagnosis, because the diagnosis tells the doctor what treatment options are available. So as a naturopath, I do not say what's a natural treatment for your diagnosis. I have to say, gosh, what caused that to happen? And it's different for every person. I can have 10 different people with, say, arthritis, and they can have 10 completely different sets of circumstances that overwhelm their body to cause that to happen. So here's the way our model works. First of all, we put a big gray area in between these two. If nothing is wrong, that's fantastic, but it doesn't mean you're up here. You could literally be anywhere on this scale. So everyone is born somewhere on this scale. Everyone's got genetics that make you stronger in certain areas and more vulnerable in other areas. Now, you also have what we call a constitution. Your constitution is how sensitively you're built. So, like artists tend to have a more sensitive constitution. We all know people, as little kids, us girls, we would have a spend the night party. There's always that one or two people that just cannot make it up and stay up late. They just have to fall asleep. Those would be the more sensitive constitutions. There's people who, if they don't get quite enough sleep, they just can't function the next day. Then on the other end of the spectrum is a hardy constitution, which has its good aspects for sure because you're stronger. But the problem with a strong constitution is because you don't feel all those little things. I only need 5.5 hours of sleep. I'll just have some extra coffee. I can make it. And you do that day after day and year after year. And then you don't feel that things are pulling you down until all of a sudden, boom, you get hit with a 2x4 with a problem because you just didn't feel it developing. So whatever your constitution is, sensitive or hardy, and whatever your genetics are, here you come into the world. Now, these 4 types of stressors begin to hit you. First of all, poor lifestyle habits. Your sleep, your food, your exercise habits, your water intake, all of that. Second would be physical stresses to your body. Accidents, injuries, surgeries, dental work, childbirth. We have lots of periods of time where we have physical stresses to our body. Next would be times when we've had mental and emotional stress. So mental and emotional stress, we're wired with a fight or flight response to have a sudden stress. Here's a snake. I can either chop his head off or I can run away from him. And then the snake is gone, and I can calm back down. But in our modern life, we have stresses that go on long term. I don't have to tell you what they are. You've probably experienced some in your lifetime. But when you're under chronic stress, you can feel it taking the vitality from your body. The last category is toxic stress. And that is a huge, huge category. This is tragic. So I'm filming this in 2023. And about 10 years ago, Environmental Working Group did a study on newborns in the US. And they took blood from the newborns at birth. And what they discovered is the average baby in the US was born with over 200 toxins already in their blood at birth. We're talking pesticides, plastics, heavy metals, flame retardants, and. So this is the situation we're in. The environmental toxins that we face are great. And so wherever you're born, as these things hit you, it can start to push you down. Sometimes you will feel that you're not as well as you were. Sometimes you have a heart attack, or you find a lump one day and you have cancer. Sometimes you don't feel it developing. But if you intellectually understand how this works, you can take the steps that you need to reverse these things. Now, I want to talk to you about how a good naturopath takes a history. We look at as many details as possible from this list, the things that could have caused you to make a downhill slide. And we start at the very beginning. What was your mom's health like when she was pregnant with you? Were there any kinds of medications used at birth? Especially if you had antibiotics, maybe you were a C-section or your mom tested positive with group B strep and there had to be antibiotics used. That takes your gut microbiome and your body's microbiome down a notch from the very beginning, and it's a vulnerability factor. So you start at the very beginning and you look all through the life. What things have happened? Where did the person live? What kinds of toxins are common in the environment in this area? I will sit down at the computer, and if I'm unfamiliar with a town or an area, I'll just search environmental toxins, Anytown, USA. You would be shocked at what comes up sometimes. Chemical fires. We just had a chemical fire in Ohio. But these things, when the years go on, you forget about them, but they were insults that your body took. Even tiny things. You got bitten by a tick or stung by a group of hornets. Those are the kinds of things that can cause problems in the body that manifest much later. So be sure when you're working with somebody that they take an extremely detailed history so that you can have an idea of where you need to start to undo this mess and take yourself up. Now, I do want to reiterate, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Medical doctors have their place. Naturopaths have their place. Medical doctors are appropriate when there is an acute situation. If you're having a heart attack, if you broke an arm, whatever. That's where medicine is just amazing and shines. Medicine is also appropriate in a chronic situation that could be dangerous. So for example, let's say you have diabetes. Well, it can be dangerous for your blood sugar to be that high, uncontrolled, but the medication doesn't solve the diabetes. When you go off of it, your sugar goes up again. Same with blood pressure. You come off the meds, your blood pressure's high again, but it can control the problem while you go about undoing the things that caused it to happen. So then you don't need the medications anymore. So I hope this is very helpful to you, because I think the more you understand about the causative factors, the more you can take control of your own life and help keep your health in the best possible shape.